you living your true self? Astonished with this question, I say, of course I am living my true self. I live with my true love, with my children. I work in a real job that pays well enough. I have friends to hang out with. She cuts me and says, are you sure this is your true self? Or is your true self hiding behind these never-ending daily routines? Feeling defensive, I argue, look, seriously, my life is good. I name my achievements for her again, from love to children to work. I stop there. Hesitantly, I add, aren't these the things everyone wants in life? House, car, love, friends, and job security. A strange feeling arises in me. I remember the bitterness of those nights when I stayed awake, feeling guilty for wanting to run away and live alone. The occasional feeling that something is wrong, although everything looks right, as if a mistake has happened in the coding of my life. I remember the nightmares of killing my loved ones or being killed by them. There is a monster in me, and it is as if this stranger knows about it. Is that monster my true self? It can't be. My knees tremble. I close my eyes, trying to remember. It's all dark. When and where did I leave myself behind? The voice says again, let me tell you the story of a man whose life was very similar to yours. His name was Johnny. When Johnny was 2, he was a ball of energy. Energy radiated from all of his being, his body and his mind. One day, Johnny takes one of his Legos and starts banging on the coffee table, letting out a cry of happiness. Excited about his new moves, Johnny looks around for a sign of approval. His mom appears. She hurries over to him, afraid that he might break the vase on the table. She snatches the block out of Johnny's hand and says, can't I leave you alone for a moment and you don't start breaking things? Johnny stares at his mom's face, analyzing it. He finds anger, disappointment, and no love. He takes a mental note right away. Banging Legos on the table equals no love. And from that day on, he never banged any Legos on any table anymore. When Johnny got older, his younger brother became his responsibility. He had to be the one who was nice to him. One day, Johnny's younger brother pushes him and he falls into the mud. The brother laughs out loud and goes back to play with his toys. Furiously, Johnny wipes away his tears. He takes a large rock from the garden and marches toward the brother. His blood boils with hatred and revenge. He stops right behind the little boy who is preoccupied with his own fantasy games. Johnny's cold hands presses the rock. He closes his eyes and lets out a wrathful cry. He doesn't know what to do with his anger. A hand clenches his arm. He opens his eyes. It is his mom's face, filled with anger, disappointment, and no love. She shouts at him, are you a monster that you want to hurt your brother? The rock falls from his hand and he runs to his room out of shame of being a monster. Another mental note is taken right away. Harming others is monstrous, and I am not a monster. From a very young age, Johnny started to carry an invisible bag behind him. He would put every should or should nots from his parents into that bag. Be nice to people, even if you hate them. And his sincerity went in the bag. Love and protect your brother. And his anger and hatred for the one who stole his mom's love from him went into that bag. Boys don't cry, and he hid his tears in the bag. He would do anything to have his parents' love and approval. In high school, it wasn't adults who filled his invisible bag, but Johnny himself. He felt the need to fit in, so he hid his love for drawing in order to be accepted by the cool sports group. Before turning 20, his invisible bag stretched as long as the whole Americas. Only faint traces of that energetic child remained. His bag not only held his anger and hatred and violence, but his most precious parts, his wildness, impulsiveness, creativity, sensitivity, and freedom to speak his mind. It took Johnny decades to find the courage to unseal his invisible bag. It was when his bag was so heavy that he couldn't carry it anymore. He had barely any energy left to move on. He had a very limited time in his life. Doctors told him chronic stress was the reason for his fatal disease. He was uncertain about where to look or what to do with his life. He didn't even know what he truly wanted. However, all the answers he needed lay within the bag he had carried throughout his life. He simply needed to look inside. We all carry an invisible bag with us. This bag is known as the shadow in Jungian psychology. It is a part of our psyche that we repress or hide in order to fit in and be accepted by others. It's like our true essence gets trimmed down as we grow older. Back when we were kids, we had to conform to what the adults expected of us. Parents didn't exactly want us. They wanted a nice boy or a nice girl. They did not want a whole ball of energy. They had to train us for society and for their own needs. All we could do as children was to put the parts of ourselves that weren't acceptable into that bag. But that bag contains the most precious aspects of who we really are. It's not just the anger, violence, or darker desires that go in there. It's also the creative side of us. You might think you're not creative, but it just means your creativity is stored away in that bag. The more stuff you pack into that bag, the less energy you have left. Remember, you were once a ball of energy as a child, and that energy has not disappeared. It is still in you, hidden in the shadow. Your true self is right there in that bag. You've got to unseal it, open it up, and face your shadow. Living your true self is all about confronting your shadow. It is truly hard to open the invisible bag and face the shadow. It causes so much anxiety. It indeed takes a whole lot of courage to confront your true self, because it shatters the picture you have of yourself. It shatters the picture of the world you have. Rollo May, the existential psychologist, says, "To be takes so much courage because one needs to free from the ties to the infantile past, breaking the old in order that the new can be born. But this shattering is necessary if you want to live your true self. One must kill the false self in order to give birth to the true one. If you genuinely desire to live as your true self and discover your authentic identity, then you must take a trip into the depths of your darkest corners. That's where you'll find the raw, unfiltered version of yourself. The longer you take to face the shadow, the larger your invisible bag becomes, and thus the harder it gets to do it. Do you have the courage to embrace your true self? Remember, the opposite of courage is not cowardice, but conformity. Automaton conformity. Rollo May says, people lack courage because of their fear of being isolated, alone, or of being subjected to social isolation, that is, being laughed at, or ridiculed, or rejected. If one sinks back into the crowd, one does not risk these dangers. We've got this one precious life, and letting it slip away without living it on our own terms is an absolute waste. It's like we've never truly experienced what it means to be alive. Join us on this journey into the depths of darkness.